Hi, this is Claudia Russell from Berkeley, California with John Broughton on Retrospectives on 3SER KC Radio.
Was there any other career path that you were heading for at any time other than music?
Oh, gosh, nothing with any degree of seriousness. I've had funny little jobs. I was a bartender, and I worked actually in a museum in the gift store for quite a long time. I was a natural history museum in Los Angeles, and I was one of the buyers, which helped satisfy my shopping urge. So that was an interesting place to be, and I enjoyed working there. But I had my own little manufacturing business for a couple of years. I collect old paper, and I used to make refrigerator magnets and placemats out of some of the old vintage postcards and matchbooks that I would collect from the 30s and 40s. But singing feels the most right of all of those things. So
yeah,
that's really.
Tell us a bit about your dad's background in music. He apparently had a lot of influence in you developing your love for music.
He did. He passed away actually when I was fairly young. I was just about to turn 15, I think 14 or 15, and he was a singer, and he actually taught voice to people. He was a vocal coach, and so I heard a lot of music and a lot of singing. And he also would listen to a lot of jazz. He was the kind of guy that had those, giant speakers in the living room, and he would lay down on the couch on a Saturday afternoon and listen to jazz. And in my lifetime with him, he was a classical singer, but I found out that he had a whole other career before he ever came to the States as a sort of dance hall kind of big band singer with the BBC. And that was a wonderful thing to find out, because it really felt kind of. I like that kind of music a lot, and it made me go, oh, well, maybe that's why. But it wasn't something he told anybody about when he was alive, really.
He had quite a big hit over there, I believe.
I'm sorry?
He had quite a bit hit over there, I believe.
He had what did he have in London? He had the Teddy Bear's Picnic was a big hit for him. It was a million seller back in like 1933 or something. I can't remember the exact date, but that's a lot of records for back then. And I met a lovely man online who contacted me and said, whatever happened to him after 1936, and he wrote an article about him for a fanzine for dance bands that he has in England, and he gave me more information than I ever dreamed of. It was wonderful, and he sent me a lovely cassette of about 36 songs of my dad singing, even with his own band. He had his own kind of Stefan Grappelli type little combo, and oh gosh, it was such a gift.
I believe he also kept quite abreast of changes in music and even introduced you to some rock and roll.
He did. He played the Beatles for me. Maybe it was his English thing. I don't know, but I think his students kept him up on stuff too, because I think as a teacher, people are bringing you music and you are playing it for them, and it seemed very circular. And he passed it on to me too. He turned me onto like Aretha Franklin, and I remember the Rolling Stones, I think it's Can't Get No Satisfaction record, and he really did.
Now, I was reading an article about you that mentioned that your stepmother had a part in you getting your first band by placing an advertisement in the newspapers. Is that right?
She did. She was married to my father, and she actually was fairly soon after he had passed away, and there was a local high school out where they lived, and she put an ad in the paper saying I was a singer looking for a band, and I was so mortified that she did that, because it wouldn't have occurred to me to do that. And I got a phone call, and I'm still friends with these people. They're some of my oldest and dearest friends, so she really did me a wonderful service, and she got me going.
I'll talk about a couple of the groups you were involved with before you started recording solo. Maggie's Farm, can you tell us a bit about them?
That was pretty fun. That was a real rock and roll group, and we were sort of a wonderful writer named Allison McLeod, and she was pretty much the main front person, and I was her harmony singer, but pretty, it was kind of Everly Brothers-like, Everly Sisters-like. A lot of fun, and just big and loud, and it's fun to sing like that. But we had a deal and a distribution deal, and got to go out on the road a little bit, opening for some. We opened for Dave Mason, and we got to play at a Farm Aid, which was just an amazing little experience, and it was really fun. You know, I got a little rock and roll in there. I like a lot of kinds of music, so it's fun to satisfy them.
Now, there's another outfit, Life is Grand. What can you tell us about that one?
Oh, you know, John, I'm actually singing with them again.
Oh, are you?
Yes, in fact, I'm playing this coming Friday. It is a lot of fun. It's a very vocal-oriented acoustic trio. 2 other women. We were together a while ago, and then kind of stopped and went our separate ways, and now we're back. My husband likes to describe us as there's a group here, the 4 Bitchin' Babes.
Ah, yes.
And he calls us the 3 Bitchin' Babes, because it's comedic, but they're serious stuff, and very intertwined vocals. We do a lot of a cappella things, and we all kind of missed it. So it's fun. Everybody's different now. We all got married, and one woman has 2 kids, and but it's very gratifying to work with them again, and sort of satisfies a little another little musical thing for me, because I love singing harmony, and I really enjoy working with them. So we're called the Life is Grand Band, and it's just a lot of fun.
What for you is the secret to good harmony singing? What's the key element you need there?
You know, I think that it involves listening as much as anything, because I remember sort of just trying to add harmonies to existing songs, and old Crosby, Stills and Nash stuff, and I suddenly realized years later that I'd been kind of passively learning, because I always thought I was sort of lazy and I wasn't really trying hard, but I realized that I learned a lot from listening, and I think I think it's as much about listening, because I don't read music, but I have I just enjoy harmony singing a lot, and so I think listening.
Yeah.
That would be my number one.
Now, I guess in terms of starting a solo career, you could be termed a late starter. Were you not harbouring ambitions in that direction earlier?
You know, I'm a reluctant performer. As my husband calls me, what did he say? A recovering chicken. That's what he calls me. And I it would be a fantasy, but I've also it had been a fantasy, of course, because I have, yes, to have a solo career has always felt kind of out there, but I really am a good team player too, and I love being a part of a group, so I just gravitated more towards that, and I am a late starter, and I'm a late starter as far as writing is concerned, and I have some wonderful writer friends who give me a lot of courage and a lot of encouragement and faith to keep writing too, and I'm grateful to them.
I read where you quoted an experience at the Kerrville Folk Festival as a place of inspiration for you to finally get down and record. What was it about that time that inspired you to take the plunge?
You know, I saw something on a website about them taking applications for their songwriters contest, part of their festival, and I remember calling my husband and going, I have 2 songs, should I send them? And he said, what the heck? And we FedExed them, because it was due like the next day, and which is very typical of me. I was a little hesitant, and then I decided just do it. And when I got picked, I was just to be one of the people. I was flabbergasted, but I really felt like it was a little bit of validation that I really needed, that it was okay to do this, that it wasn't frivolous, and it wasn't the creator of that festival, Rod Kennedy, gives a wonderful little sort of, I called it a pep talk before we went on, and I I was grateful to him for the rest of my life, because he just said, this is a real thing you're doing. It's not fluffy stuff, It's the stuff of dreams and lives, and anyway, it just made me feel okay about this. So
now let's talk about your CD, Song Food. If I could place any one label on the record, I would say it's diverse. You cover a wide range of musical styles. Is that the way you set out to do it right from the start, or is that the way the songs just panned out in the studio?
I think I kind of set out to do it. It took me a really long time to make this record. It was at the top of my New Year's resolution list for a decade. And I like a lot of styles of music. I tend towards a little bit of sort of, I would say, Western-edged things. I used to be in a Western swing band, kind of a working band. You played in bars and clubs and for a couple of years, and I sort of grew to like Western swing music a lot. So I come from that sensibility too, but I do like a lot of different kinds of music, and finding my own voice within there is a challenge, because I'm not sure exactly what my originals are perceived as, but I know I recorded Home on the Range, and somebody said to me, "Oh, you're crazy," and I said, "But it's such a beautiful melody. It's a lovely song." So I'm hoping, actually, I'm working on a CD now, and I'm hoping to actually, after this one, I'd like to do kind of an all swing CD. I think it must be a little bit of my dad talking to me, and I just like a lot of sort of Western swing and a little bit of. I just love that style, so I'm hoping to do that in a couple years from now.
Yeah, there was some recording done in Memphis and some in Los Angeles. Any reason for that?
Not really. We had made friends with a wonderful guy who's on the record. His name is Eric Lewis, and he was living and kind of working out of Memphis, and we were in Wisconsin when we decided to go down and just try a couple things with him. He's marvelously talented. He played on Western Skies and Blue Flame Cafe, and I second that emotion. And he actually plays with a guy named Andy Ratliff, and we're starting to work together as a trio too, just for a little bit. That's a little more bluegrassy, and so we just basically, because he lived there,
yeah.
and we wanted to work with him a bit. So,
what about some of the musicians on the record? What's their backgrounds?
Well, we've played with Deborah Dobkin, who is a wonderful percussionist. She's just incredible player, and she's very supportive too. It was great to just have her in the room with me. She's gave me so much courage. And she's played with Bonnie Raitt and Jewel and all sorts of people, so I was very fortunate to have her. And we have a wonderful friend, Carl Byron, who plays accordion, and he's traveled with us a little bit and played. He's just phenomenal. And my husband, oh my goodness, my trusty sidekick.
How could you forget?
He went to work today, sorry. He's gone. He plays mandolin and guitar, and he's actually jumping in and doing some singing now, which I think is wonderful. So lots of different people we worked with. I'm very grateful, and my producer helped get it all together. His name is Mark Governor, and he really helped me vision out of my head and off of my New Year's resolution list and onto a CD.
There's a wonderful arrangement of the old Smokey Robinson song, I Second That Emotion. Who came up with that particular arrangement? Was that yours?
It was, and I thank you very much, because my husband Bruce bought me a Motown songbook one year for Christmas, and I was just, messing around with some songs, and I came in and I said to him, "What do you think of this?" Because I came up with that somehow, and he goes, "Oh, you can't do that to that song. That song is kind of sacred. He didn't like it." And I said, no, it's going to work. We'll get banjo on it. And he really thought I was nuts at that point. But that's when we went to Memphis, and my friend Eric and Andy and I played it and recorded it. And then we came back to Los Angeles and put the bass and drums on it. So it was a little backwards. But I'm thank you. I like that song. I've always loved to play it, and when I was just sort of taking some singing classes, I would play that as my sort of performance piece, and I thank you. I have fun with that.
You could actually hear the song that way in your head already before you went to the studio.
You know, yes, I did, because I was playing it by myself that way for a while. I was just, when I started getting into the idea of performing, I took a little vocal performance class, and I would play that song, actually. And I was working at the museum, and there was this lovely guy who would stand outside sort of busking in the park, and he played banjo. And he would have a guitar and a banjo. And one day I went on a coffee break, and I said, would you mind trying something with me? And I played his guitar, and I played him the song, and he played the banjo. And I just said, oh, thanks, I think that's going to work. He really helped me, fortify the idea.
Excellent. Now, you mentioned Home on the Range, another cover you chose to do on the song. You weren't tentative at all about putting a song on there that is already so familiar to so many people?
I just didn't think of it that way. It felt like a comfort food to me. It's just, I love that melody a lot, and I don't know. Yeah, there's something. Maybe there's a fine line of familiar being a bad thing or a good thing, but it really felt like a comfort, kind of musical comfort food to me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I picked it.
And some of the other songwriters on the album, they're not household names. Can you tell us a little bit about some of them?
Well, we have a wonderful friend, Annie Chelsea, and she is just a great writer. She writes many kinds of songs, and she's pretty wonderful. So we did one of her songs, which was Whiskey Walk, and she writes songs that are 100 degrees different than that too. But she's great. Bruce has played in a band with her, and has accompanied her off and on. My friend Ted Waterhouse, he's wrote Western Skies, and he's one of the people I made music with when I was... He's the person that answered that ad that my grandmother put in the paper. Literally, and I am still very good friends with him, and that's one of his songs that seems very timeless to me, and I think it's a pretty wonderful story. And then there's a wonderful writer named Carol Elliott, and she wrote the song Try, Try Again, which I just think is like an anthem that makes me feel better to play. It's very full of hope, and I can imagine singing that for the next 30 years. I just love that song. It's not going to ever pale for me.
It is one of the standouts on the record.
She's a Nashville writer, and she's just phenomenal. I actually had picked up a cassette of hers and went on a drive and listened to it, and that was one of the songs I played like 50 times in a row because it just struck me, and it feels like that's how I pick those songs from other people. They strike me on some kind of cellular level, and I can't let go of it. In fact, I must sing it.
When you're choosing songs from other people to cover it, really, it's that immediacy that you're looking for, something that hits you straight away?
Pretty much. And it could either come, it can come from the words themselves or the melody. When you sing it, it's like, it sort of feels. I really think singing, it vibrates. Somewhere in you're just sort of vibrating the cells, and perhaps more so than playing another instrument. But sometimes I think a song will work, and it's a little difficult to work, and I've had that happen a little bit too. I don't abandon them, though. I try and figure a way out, through them.
Now, I want to talk about the cover art of the CD. There must be a story to this. Looks like something you'd find in a pet store back in the 1940s.
Don, that is exactly it. We literally were finished with this, and I did not have the concept from the start of what it should be called or what it should look like. And my husband and I were standing in our dining room, and we're big collectors. We have old cards and old tins, coffee tins and spice tins, and we were literally standing there looking around, and we looked up and we saw this tin of song food, which is canary food from a company here called Hearts Mountain, and Bruce had given it to me. It's to keep your birds singing, and he'd given it to me for a birthday present. And he just ran with it. He's a graphic designer, and we just thought it would work. He got permission from the company. He contacted them, and they're still a family-owned company. And it's pretty much the can, although under the contents on the can it says like rye seed, flax seed, and we put contents, vocals, acoustic, electric, and slide guitars, and he changed it a bit, and I love the cover. It just felt like exactly the right thing.
Yeah, it's a lovely piece of work, really.
Thank you. I'll tell him.
Oh, kid.
Now, I believe stage fright was quite a problem for you at one stage. How did you manage to overcome that?
Well, I don't think I have. Somebody had said to me a few years ago, well, the more you perform, the easier it will get. And I think that's true to a point. So it becomes a little easier for me. But it's hard. I don't know. I do yoga. Sometimes I used to call it bathroom yoga. I would go wherever I was. I would try and, do a little yoga for 30 seconds wherever I was before I would play. But hearing about other people's stage fright has helped me too. That it's not, it doesn't make me feel so solitary in it. I just saw Mary Chapin Carpenter on Saturday night here at UCLA, and she talked about her stage fright, and my jaw dropped. I was so grateful to her for mentioning that as being a factor. It isn't as much so, but it still is a little bit for her even. So gave me great comfort.
Nice to know you're not alone.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Now, you're playing primarily solo, or do you have a band of your own?
No, I play with my husband. We are. He likes to be called my trusty. It's Claudia Russell and her trusty sidekick, Bruce Kaplan, and he's wonderful. He's so supportive, and he's a great player. He plays mandolin and guitar, so it's pretty much the two of us. And more often when we're home, just because financially it's difficult to go out with a lot of people, and we play with a wonderful viola player who played on the CD named Tom Talley, and who's also from the newspaper ad. Oh. And our friend Carl Byron, who plays accordion, and the four of us go out sometimes, but more often locally. And that's a lot of fun because I love the sound of all those instruments, a guitar and a mandolin and a accordion and a viola. It's pretty fun.
Now, you mentioned there's a new CD in the works. What stage is that at the moment? We basically have sort of little rough mixes of about 4 or 5 songs, but there's more to it. And I'm hoping it'll be out by the end of the summer or the very beginning of the fall. There's lots more work, and I have 2 originals so far on it, and I have about 2 more that I'm sort of heading towards finishing, and I would really like them to be a part of it. So I haven't quite come up with all the songs yet, and but it's not going to take 10 years this time. Just can't. So the ambition is to just slightly increase the quantity of your own material on there as well.
It is. It's very interesting to write, and it's a hard process. I actually took a couple of songwriting classes with somebody I admire so much. I took them last spring. It's from Peter Case.
Oh, yes.
And he was so open and generous with his artistic spirit, and again, it was kind of like the little pep talk from Rod Kennedy. I just got so much from being there and hearing him. I'm pretty inspired to keep going here with I used to think I didn't really have anything to say, and I don't think that's what it's about anymore. So I don't know.
With the benefit of that one album behind you now, is there anything you think you'll try a little bit differently when you go into the studio this time around?
Well, I don't know. That's such a good question, and I've already started a little bit, and it doesn't seem that different to me. So maybe not too different. I would like to spend a little more time on recording the vocals, but then there's a scratch vocal that we're using, and that scares me a little bit because I wasn't paying attention when I was singing it, and everybody said, "Oh, but that's the best sounding one." So I'm a little nervous about that. I thought I wanted to focus more on the making the vocals sound good, but maybe that's not what it's about either. Maybe it's more about capturing something. So I think the next record, when it's just like a swing record and it's all done fairly live, drop a microphone in the middle of the room, that'll be a lot different.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay, Claudia, look, I want to thank you for your time. It's been a lot of fun talking to you at what is such an exciting time for your career.
Oh, John, thank you.
You've got that difficult first album out of the way, and it's all smooth sailing from now on, I'm sure.
Well, I thank you. It was great to talk to you. I appreciate it so much, and I thank you. I'm looking forward to my next CD too. So, thank you.
We're looking forward to your first Australian tour. I hope it's not too far away. We'd love to see you down here.
Oh my goodness, I would love to go there too. So I will. We'll figure something out.
Terrific. We'll be here waiting for you. Thanks a lot, Claudia.
Thank you.
All the best.
Take care.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.